morning, good afternoon, and good evening, NFL fans, and welcome to this week's edition of the Will G Football Talk Show. It is officially week one of the NFL, and I could not be more excited to be here with you today. Now, let's get into week one's biggest headlines. The Colts recently made two quarterback moves after the recent retirement of Andrew Luck. They signed Brian Hoyer to a 3-year, $12 million contract deal, and they also extended Jacoby Brissett for 2 years, $30 million. The Chicago Bears recently locked up Cody Whitehair for an extra 5 years on a $52.5 million contract, $27.5 guaranteed. The Chicago Bears have all 5 starting linemen locked up through 2021. The Steelers recently extended cornerback Joe Hayden to a 2-year, $22 million deal with 16.8 signing bonus. That is huge for the Steelers defense. He is a big piece that they did not want to lose. The Texans recently just made a huge splash in the NFL, pulling off 2 blockbuster trades, and I personally think that they lost both. The Texans and the Dolphins made a trade, and they received Laramie Tunsil, Kenny Stills, a 2024 and a 2021 6th-round pick, and the Dolphins received a 2020 and a 2021 first-round pick, along with a 2021 second-rounder and special teamer Johnson Badamasi. They also moved Jadeveon Clowney to Seattle. The Texans received in return Jacob Martin, Barkevious Mingo, and a third-round pick. Pass rusher Jadeveon Clowney should have been worth a lot more than what they received. We now move on to updates on running backs Ezekiel Elliott and Melvin Gordon. There were reports this weekend that Zeke and the Dallas Cowboys were coming close to a deal. Zeke has now officially left Cabo, where he was in training, and made his way to Dallas, where they're hoping getting a deal done. Melvin Gordon, on the other hand, is not in the same situation. GM Tom Telesco said that contract negotiations will be pushed till the end of the season. That means Melvin has the choice to return, or he can continue to seek trade partners. As of right now, Melvin Gordon does not plan to play week one. Now we move on to Will G's Fantasy Talk. I'm going to bring you my stardoms and my situms. Start Russell Wilson. He's going to torch the Bengals this weekend. Also start Mark Ingram. He's going to be workloading this weekend as they face the awful Dolphins defense. Now, sit Cam Newton. He's got the Rams this week. I'm not saying he's going to play particularly bad, but I just don't see him going off. Also, sit Derrick Henry. He's got the Browns defense. That's a solid and up-and-coming defense. Now I'm going to bring you this week's injury report. Nick Bosa, who has been battling an ankle injury, just recently returned to practice on Monday and does plan to play week one. Trey Burton has now been ruled a game-time decision against Green Bay in Chicago, after reports that he'd just been recently battling a growing injury. Amari Cooper, who has been fighting with a nagging heel injury, says that he believes he will be ready for week one. And Robbie Anderson is on the right track and is expected to play week one versus the Bills. Now we're going to send it over to Thomas in Northwest Indiana with this week's Bold Predictions.
Thanks, Will, for that injury update. Now on to my bold predictions. My first bold prediction is the Kansas City Chiefs are going to be upset by the Jacksonville Jaguars in Jacksonville. My other bold prediction is Sam Darnold is going to have a perfect passer rating against the Buffalo Bills and throw for 350 yards and 3 touchdowns. Now back to Will for the NFL predictions for the week.
Thanks, Thomas, for those bold predictions. They sure were bold. Now we're going to move on to Will G's rapid-fire one-liner pick-a-rooskies. Now, if anybody can edit some fire over these fingers, let me know how. That'd be great. We'll start off with the Bears shredding some cheddar to kick off 2019, 27-17. The Chiefs will escape the cage of the Jaguars, just barely, 24-20 Chiefs. The Dirty Birds make their way into Minnesota, where they lose a close one to the Vikings, 28-24. The much improved Browns clash with the Titans and hold them off, 23-13. The Jets take off, and they continue to take off in their win over the Bills, 24-17. 17. The Ravens soared into Miami and laid a beatdown on the Dolphins, 28-7. The Eagles worked up another Philly special over the Skins, 31-17. The Rams' revenge tour has to be put on hold as my Trace Dolly underdog of the week. The Panthers upset the Rams, 28-24. And in this week's Lucas Hoig lock of the week, he has the Bolts busting up the Colts, 27-14. Seattle doesn't clown around in Cincinnati. Get it? Because I got Jadeveon Clowney. 24-13. The big boys lay a beatdown on the Little Giants this weekend in the Big D. 28-17. Bruce's first game as a Buck, make sure that he sends the 49ers to Davy Jones' locker. 27-20. And the Lions roar into Arizona this weekend as they put the pressure on Murray in a hurry. 21-10 Lions. Brady and crew edge a win on the big stage, giving the Steelers some bad juju. 25-21. The Saints say who dat to the Texans in their 35-24 win. And Joe Cool and Vic win their first game together, making the city of Oakland want the Raiders to go home even quicker. 24-15. And that was Will G's Rapid Fire Hickarooskies. And I'd also like to thank everybody for tuning in this week. That concludes this week's episode of the Will G's Football Talk Show. I hope to catch you back next weekend. And make sure, if you're a Bears fan, to tune in tomorrow to my Will Gray Bears pregame show. I am so hyped for tomorrow